Thank you for joining me this morning. Quebec has detected its first case of the double mutant variant that originated from India. And so what can you tell us about this specific variant?
Well, it's still early in the research regarding that particular variant. Until now, there's not a lot known about its different characteristics. We know the mutations that it harbors, and that these mutations have been associated in other variants to an ability to resist somewhat more antibodies that are either directed against the initial virus or that were developed through vaccination. But this is still very early in this, and there's a lot of work to be done to clarify this.
So since it's come out that in Quebec we now have this variant, why at this stage, with the information that you have, why can you say that that we're worried about the presence of this variant?
Right. Well, worried is maybe too much. I think we need to be concerned in terms of public measures. We need to make sure that this variant does not spread too much. But the mutations that it harbors, they do cause concern in terms of whether it could be less effectively neutralized by the vaccine, and that's what is more worrying. In terms of spreading, it doesn't appear to be more transmissible if we compare to the UK, the variant that was described in the UK, which this one has been clearly showed to be more transmissible. So in this case, it's not clear, and it harbors a mutation that that was detected in the California isolated variants. And this one has been linked to somewhat better transmission, but until now, it's only speculations.
And again, from what you know, what is different about this variant compared to the other types of variants that you've mentioned previously?
Well, I mean, it's different in the mutations that I just described. So there's this combination of two mutations that have been seen in other variants that are of concern. So the fact that these two mutations are reunited in one variant, this is the difference with this one. But there are many other variants that are under investigation that do not that contain other mutations that are maybe not as characterized as these two, but that also are to be watched. So yeah, that's what we can say at the moment, but it's still very early in this research.
So in terms of that, in terms of time, how long would it take, for us to really have all the information and know just how dangerous or non-dangerous this variant would be?
Well, this will take months, I would say, because as was seen with the variant that was described in the UK, this took a lot of time and a lot of efforts to really be sure that there was a better transmission and also more virulence with that strain. So I would expect this to be the same. Whether it will, whether it will replace other variants and become a dominant variant is not clear. And that would be required to know exactly if it's more transmissible and more deadly, for example. So I think it's too early to say at the moment. It might not actually, propagate easily in Canada, and then we might never know whether it's more more resistant or more transmissible. So we'll see.
And you touched earlier on the fact that it may or may not have an impact on the vaccination. Now, the person that was detected with this specific variant did receive a vaccine in January, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So how is this person doing now? How did you find out? Just if you can give me a little bit of information on this person and the condition they were in to find out that they had this variant.
Right. From what I understand is that that person is now fine. So they fully recovered from the infection. So that's the good news. It's a case that was identified, I think, a few weeks ago, and it took a bit of time to go through the sequencing of the variant. That's a quite labor intensive process. So that's why we only learned about it yesterday. Um, and yes, apparently that person was vaccinated with one of the mRNA vaccines. It's not clear whether it was the Pfizer or the Moderna vaccine, but they did receive one shot of the vaccine about 2 months ago, and but the condition of the person is confidential, so it's not clear whether it's an older person or a person in a long-term care facility suffering from different other conditions. So that might all be important in terms of knowing whether the immunity that was induced in that person could have waned over the 2 month period, and explaining why this person still got infected. And from what I understood, the disease was not very severe. So that's probably a sign as well that the vaccine did protect somewhat the person from developing severe symptoms. So I think it's pretty reassuring. And the other thing that's might be worth mentioning is that that person was already in confinement when in isolation when they were detected positive because of a case in their family. So that's another good news, because that person probably did not have too much contact with others, and probably did not have sufficient time to spread the virus outside of his household. So that's that's another good news.
Indeed, I was very happy to learn that as well. And so, do you think that's part of the reason why we heard that the INSPQ was not going to keep the case under tight surveillance? They're not going to maintain tight surveillance on this specific case. Do you think that's part of the reason why?
It's possible. I think that particular outbreak, if we can call it this way, is already contained. So there might not be sufficient reason to continue looking into it. Of course, they are continuing to monitor any other. So the other reassuring news is that they found out that that person was infected with that variant. So that means the measures that are in place in terms of screening and sequencing of the variants is working, and we can identify these variants. They might be more because not all positive samples are sequenced, so it's only just a proportion of the samples that are sequenced. So it gives us a good idea that some variants are popping up here and there, but whether it's more important, it's not clear at the present, but it could be.
So in the case that it would be, and this is of course just hypothetical, but what would it mean for Quebec to see a third predominant variant? Or, you know, there are 5 now, so I don't know if the 5 are present really in Quebec, but what would it mean for this variant to be another predominant one in the province?
Right. I mean, until until recently, I wouldn't be too worried, because if it's not transmitting more importantly than the variant from UK, then I wouldn't be worried that it would spread too far, because it's always a competition between the variants, and the UK variant has the upper hand, basically. So it took the space, and now it's probably difficult for other variants to take over. However, if a particular variant, and I'm not just talking about this one, but possibly others in the future, are let's say more resistant to neutralization by the vaccines, then that would confer an advantage to these variants. And now this new hypothetical variant with that is able to escape the immunity from the vaccine, now this variant would have an advantage over the others, and could become the dominant one. So that's why we need to keep an eye on things, and make sure that these variants that could escape the vaccines are taken care of very early and aggressively, and to make sure that they don't spread too quickly in the context of the vaccine campaign.
How do we make sure, of course, now in this case, the person, we had the confirmation that they were isolated when this happened, but how do we make sure that it doesn't spread?
Mm-hmm. I mean, the responsibility is on both the person that has symptoms, and the health authorities. So there's twofold. So the I think what we can do as potential patients is to be alert, and to be quick in terms of getting screened and tested, and to be quick in isolating ourselves, and not going around feeling sick, so that's the first thing. Is so for any virus and any variants, we need to be aware of that we are we can decide if we can put a lid on an infection by being very quick. The second is from the health authority perspective. They also need to be quicker in terms of contact tracing. So they need to be very fast in contacting potential contacts of confirmed cases, and make sure these people isolate and do not spread the infection. So I think we all have a bit of responsibility in that, and we know what to do. It's just that we need to do it.
Thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it. Thank you for answering my questions.
My pleasure.